Good evening, televiewers. You welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. Today, Thursday, the 18th of April 2024, an edition that is going to be looking at what it is going to take to change the political dynamics in Cameroon. What the young persons can do differently to change these dynamics is going to be the focus for tonight's edition of our Prime Hour. So many calls are coming from all the quarters, unprecedented, never seen in Cameroon. We've seen comedians, musicians, and almost everybody is asking Cameroonians to go register for elections against 2025. So we're going to be looking at what the young people can do to make the difference. Can they do it? They complain almost every day that they have never been given the opportunity to take the front seats at the political level. But who are they waiting for to hand them this opportunity and a front seat? Is it not time for them to also come out with strategies to impose themselves and change the dynamics? We are looking at this topic this evening with our panelists who are with me in the studio. Dr. Apostle Ambe Valentine Gwa is our permanent consultant, who is also the president of the Cameroon Pentecostal Movement. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Thank you for this privilege and honor again to be here tonight. Good evening, Cameroonians, and welcome to today's edition of Prime Hour. We are here to discuss politics in Cameroon. We are at the prime of the Cameroonian political platform, and we are expecting Cameroonians to rise in their numbers and effect the so much anticipated change that they've yearned for many years. And I think this is a time we're not going back.
We also are in the company of Fabrice Lena, who is the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, the PAP party, and has been crisscrossing the world. He was in Germany, crisscrossing Cameroon, in Marwa today, in Ebolova tomorrow, and almost everywhere. We are glad to have you with us.
Good evening, Solio. Good evening, Grand Frère, Dr. Ambe Valentine. Good evening to President John Denis Tabe. Good evening to all the National Council members of the Popular Action Party. Good evening to field workers, Tamba Collins, Your Bless, Mawo, Ka Jokem Quinivet. Good evening to all our Popular Action Party persons who are working with Elekam in Marua, Dija Manyang, Sadia Madi, Abubakar Amat. Good evening to all the militants of Popular Action Party throughout the country, to all volunteers of Team PAP Voters Registration Campaign Project, to partners of Team PAP Voters Registration Campaign Project, and civic and political engagement activities on the ground. Special good evening to all those watching My Media Prime this evening. It's the day for us to talk about Cameroon politics and changing the narrative. We hope that our contribution, our thought is going to edify and make meaningful contribution to the Cameroon we want to see after 2025. Okay. Thank you for having me as your guest, Mr. Liu.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation this night, Dr. Apostle Ambe Valentine Angwa. Is it possible for the youths to make the difference?
Yes, Mr. Liu, that question has a capital yes. And I repeat again, yes. This is because, first and foremost, calculating the demography of Cameroon, the youths occupy a greater population of Cameroon's population. And I think by virtue of that number, we are automatically on the advantage. And I believe that politics is numbers. And because we are the most numerous group of persons in this country, we have the capacity to effect the change. There have a lot of factors I think is affecting the youths in our country who have not taken up this responsibility. Number one, they are ignorant about the political landscape of Cameroon. I think we have a lot to do when it comes to political education, because based on experience, I've had individuals I've talked with, they are totally blind, they are short-sighted, as a matter of fact, they are glycomic when it comes to the issue of politics in our nation, Cameroon. And I think we have not done our jobs as politicians in this country to educate the youth to understand that they have such power and authority. The worst thing that can happen to you is being loaded with so much capacity, yet you cannot express the capacity. Being given the privilege and the authority to make decisions that you cannot make because you are ignorant. I think the youths are still thinking that the elderly people who are in power, they're the ones who run this nation. As a matter of fact, the destiny of this nation is in the hands of the youth. Now, for us to be the most populated group of persons in this country, when elders have been in power for several years, and only a clear indication that, number one, we are ignorant of what we are called to do. Number two, we don't know the advantage we have in the country. Number three, we don't have a proper understanding of how things operate in this country. And I think if we do our job very well as political stakeholders in the country, many of the youths who are very, very reluctant about political issues will definitely fail. A young man called me 2 days ago and asked me that, what is the essence of politics? I say, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. As a matter of fact, politics is in everything we do. The rice you are buying in the market is political. The school you are attending is political. The food you are eating is political. Even the soap you are using to bathe in your bathroom is political. And if you don't understand that everything is from the root of politics, you'll be thinking that you're in the economic sector, you're in the social sector, you're in the industrial sector, you're in the agricultural sector. All those sectors put together are wrapped up on the foundation of politics. And if at all we don't rise up, the rest of the sectors cannot be effective if at all the political sector is not in order. And the reason why we keep coming on air this time, challenging youths, calling upon them, instigating them to rise up and take up the responsibility to get their voters card and register, make sure that the next year's election 2025 they are active participants of the election, not just observers, because Cameroon has a population of almost about 27 million people. Most of the young people in this Cameroon population are observers. I was speaking in a conference of almost about 600 youths in La Falaise Hotel in Bonanjo, and I asked in that hall, how many of you have your voters card? It was shocking that in that hall of almost about 500 and something 600 persons, not up to 3 persons had their voters card. But these are people who say, before elections come out, we've already known the result, we are not going to vote. You can't be saying that there are still elections when you are not even stealing your own vote. Where is the vote you voted? Then you say they stole it. You should have voted, then tell us that they stole your vote. You have not voted, so I don't think you should complain that votes were stolen, because your vote was not among the votes that were stolen. Yeah. It is important for us to know that sometimes when things are small, it is easy to steal. You can steal a grain of cocoa when it is 10 seeds, but you can't steal a cocoa when it is in thousands. So you realize that the more people increase in the voter section, it becomes very difficult for elections to be rigged. This is the reason why we are insisting on calling on all the youths in this nation to understand that it is their voters card which is stronger than any gun or bullet that can change the narrative of this country. Get yourself involved, even if you are not into politics as per se, but get your voters card. That is your civic right. You don't need to be a politician to have a voters card. Voters card is a civic right of every citizen of the country. So don't tell me that you don't want to be in politics. You must not be a politician to have a voters card. You are voting because you want a change in your country. If after the elections you have voted, you can go to the industrial sector, economic sector, you can go to your scientific sector, you can go to any other sector, but make sure that the issue of voting is not the responsibility of politicians, it's the responsibility of the citizens. I think there's a slight problem here, Mr. Leo. Okay. We are trying to look voting as politicians. Voters are not politicians.
Okay, voters are not politicians. Fabrice Lena, Secretary General of the Popular Action Party. Certainly, you people have a society project to sell out to Cameroonians. But how do we explain the reticence that is noticed amongst Cameroonians, the reluctance to get politically involved and very passive with this notion of saying that whether I vote or I don't vote, nothing will change. They are even not interested in getting to handling positions at the political and administrative level. What would explain this?
Yeah, I think this problem stems from civic education, because our curriculum on civic education is very weak, and it doesn't teach enough on the basic documents that young people need to know from the basic level. You know, as a citizen that you're growing and transiting from an adolescence or a teenager to become an adult, there is that moment where you need to be inculcated certain values, to be nurtured with certain doctrines. And when that particular moment passes without you being able to capture these elements, it becomes very difficult as an adult to go back to that era that you have already skipped without having those knowledge. There are 4 documents in Cameroon which were supposed to be taught rigorously at the level of primary and secondary school. We have the Constitution of Cameroon. Like you have said, Mr. Leo, very few young people out there will tell you the content of the preamble of the Constitution of Cameroon. But this is appalling, because the Constitution of the country, irrespective of how bad or how people think it's not good or well used, should be known by the citizens before it is criticized. You should only criticize what you know its content. You have no legal, moral and legitimate right to criticize a document you don't even know the content. We have the electoral code. How many of young people in Cameroon at the age of 20 to 45 are able to tell us what the electoral code is talking about? The number of voting age, which is 20, the age at which you are eligible to be municipal councillor, or the age at which you are eligible to be parliamentary candidate, or the age at which you are eligible to be presidential candidate. These are basic elements, basic items inscribed into the electoral code, but young people skip it because they are not interested. They are not reading these documents. They are not even having it in mind that these are documents that define the policies and the way of life of their country on daily basis, makes the decision of who becomes the leader. There is what we call labor code in Cameroon. How many young people in this country really know what is in the labor code and what the labor code talks about their rights and responsibilities as an employee or an employer? How many young people know those documents? So how many young people know about the criminal code? Why am I talking about these documents? Because a country is not built from group beliefs or stereotype talks that people just make claims outside. Whether they vote or they don't vote, nothing will happen. These are stereotypes. These are just arguments without any foundation. There is no legal or legitimate foundation to those type of arguments. When you go to these documents, you come to realize that irrespective of how the documents are being misused by those in power, it has some strength. That if the strength of the document are being captured by this population that Dr. Apostle Ambe rightly put to be the majority that makes up the Cameroon total population, it will be now a point where these young people will be like, how do we use the strength in the electoral code, in the Constitution of Cameroon, in the labor code, in the criminal code, in order to safeguard our interests as young people? This is where they talk. This is where the idea of civic engagement begins. Because when you create a distance between yourself and the constitution of your country, it is difficult for you to take interest into public concern and what has to do with the running of the daily life of the country. And you said, what are the things that are making these young people to be passive, saying politics will not, and politics is because of interest. Young people have developed a lot of stereotype around politics. It's dirty, it's meant for a certain class of people, it's not. Yes, some of these declarations are true, some of them are false, but we are at the phase of solution. What do? We all know that politics in Cameroon is difficult. We all know that politics in Cameroon has been hijacked by the old guys. We all know that to penetrate and navigate the political scene in Cameroon is not easy. What are you doing? Because whether you belong to the entertainment sector, to the market sector, transport sector, health sector, it is the policies of the organized government, which is made up of the executive, legislative and judiciary arm, that affects how you function in your sector. In a nutshell, if you refuse to shape the daily actions of that your sector by knowing what the document regulating your sector talks about, by carrying out advocacy actions within your sector, by pushing for reforms within your sector which joins to bring about the change that we want to achieve, then you are an inactive citizen. And an inactive citizen is more dangerous to the country than a citizen that is not existing. Because an inactive citizen is that of citizen that constitutes burden to the country and constitute burden to those who are active. Because as those who are active are struggling to look for how they could better off the society by making daily efforts, you are simply constituting part of the difficult part of the population where people cannot access, people cannot convince, people cannot count on in order to build a country. We are at the solution phase. We are looking at youths that are able to ask themselves, what is my own contribution in my sector? As an entrepreneur, it's not sufficient to argue about the bad tax policies, but it is also important and incumbent to use your electoral your card, your electoral card to say, hey, if this guy who understands the difficulties we go through in the entrepreneurial sector is being voted as mayor, I think this guy will have the capacity to argue for a better laws, to argue for the reduction of these kind of arbitrary taxes that are not justified, to argue that we have better roads that could transfer goods from one warehouse to the other, could argue that we have a colossal or general reform of the entrepreneurial or the market system that is operating in our country. This is an active entrepreneur who is not only investing his money, but is also taking part in shaping the policy in that sector. But if you just invest your money and go and sit and then you are complaining, Cameroon is not working, nothing is working, you are not helping the situation. So we are on the clarion call that it is the time for solutions. It is the time to produce sector by sector solution. And I would really want to say from the opening statement of Mr. Liu that a lot of people are coming to the consciousness that there is need for general and collective. What election is all about is the most important aspect of it all, because election is a whole process that involves institutions, which is ELECAM and the Constitutional Council. You need to understand the operation of ELECAM. ELECAM is the body that organizes and manages election in Cameroon. How do they operate? They are represented in the 360 municipal councils in Cameroon. So you need to go close to them. It is your duty as a citizen. You don't need to be a politician in order to go and ask ELECAM that, how many times do you people go out to go and do voter registration? When and where are you people doing your voter registration activities? I have a couple of people that I need to make them to register. This is a thing that anybody can do. You don't need to belong to a political party or to be a politician in order to do this. You need to understand how the Constitutional Council operates when it comes to declaration or results of candidates. You need to understand that it is your duty. You go close to lawyers, to constitutionalists. Those people are there. They are in Cameroon. You go close to them. You ask them, how do you operate? You seek this information, because it is this information that will help shape your mind about how to participate in the whole process. And the electoral process also consists of actors. Actors now are the politicians. Okay. Actors now are those people in the field.
Yes, well, we're going to come back to those what you're explaining. Good evening, sir. You guys are shaming the youth about voting. My question is, we should vote for who? I am Sakwe, watching from Kumba. Greetings to you all. Please, there is no such thing as a time for the youth to make the difference. Why do you people keep deceiving yourselves? Cameroon is not the kind of country. Do you really think the youths are interested in this? The youths have already understood the system, so just let them focus on other things. If Biya is not elected as president again, I will stop answering my name. Yeah, the question here is, why are youths not also picking up municipal councillors positions, mayors and senators?
Like I said earlier, most of them are even ignorant.
Okay.
If such opportunity could be granted to them. Because the belief that, you see, the man who just spoke now mentioned President Pobia. To them, the only election in Cameroon is presidential elections.
Which is wrong.
Which is absolutely not correct. I've said it over and over. You don't cut a tree from the branches and expect it to die. you cut the tree from the roots. It is the municipal councils, the constituencies, the senatorial districts that sustain the president. The president is like a fruit born from a root. If you kill the root, the fruit will die. The presidential office is the weakest office in this country. Let me educate you Cameroonians. The weakest office in this country that leans on other offices for survival is the presidential office. If the municipal councils and the senatorial districts and the constituency by parliamentarians are paralyzed, the president loses his potency. Because it is the parliamentarians that make the president relevant. It's the senators that give the president relevance. It is the mayors, the regional councillors, as well as the municipal councillors that give the president relevance. Imagine the opposition party clears off all these offices. The president cannot sit and make decrees. Everything that reaches in the parliament will be annulled, because the parliamentary sitting is what determines what the president even has to say. If the president sends a bill and the parliament annuls it, the president becomes impotent. So don't look at the president as being too powerful. The president is not powerful. It is the parliament and the senate and the district councils that give the president power. Now, where are the youth supposed to take on this responsibility? The youth should not gun for presidency. They should gun for municipal councils, gun for senatorial districts, gun for constituencies owned by parliamentarians. If the youth occupy those places, the president's bill does not go through by decree, because we are not in a kingdom. This is not a monarchy. We are in a democratic system. We are not into bureaucracy. We are not into theocracy. We are not even into monarchy. We are in democracy. In this democracy, the president can come up with something and submit it to the parliament. If the parliament gives a no on that thing, the president becomes... So it tells you the president is dependent. But why have we so much empowered the president in this country? Because almost all constituencies are owned by the president's political party. The senatorial districts are owned by the president's political party. Even the municipal councils are owned by his political party. So it gives him that manpower, that voting power. When his councillors and his mayors and his parliamentarians sit in the parliament and he says anything, all they do is an okay. Donald Trump in America cannot just get up like he did in those days to pass decrees. No, the Senate is there. You saw that there are 99 Republicans and 100 Democrats. That's a very strong parliament. With such a parliament in Cameroon, we will not be ruled by decrees. Now, the electoral code in Cameroon does not permit, I repeat, elections on these constituencies to be counted like the presidential election. The elections of this country is supposed to be counted at the particular spot where the election are taking place. It's not that some twistings take place along the line. And this is the reason why the youth are supposed to come up and face the responsibility to challenge the status quo. Because if somebody wins, for instance, Tuba Council, that person is election, his votes are counted there at the constituency, and by the next day latest, the result is out. Exactly. But now we all think that presidency. Listen, the relevance of the presidents is the parliamentarians and the senators. So we are calling on the youth to know, and you must know that this. At the age of 20 years old, you are eligible to vote. That's what the electoral code says in this country. You are eligible to vote. So you can be in secondary school and still decide the destiny of your future. There are students at the age of 20, 23, 24 in secondary school. You high school, O levels, if you have your national ID card, which is one thing I think we have to also address here. Because if you meet 20 Cameroonian youths, at least 15 don't have ID cards. They don't. And we don't register for elections without an ID card. And because I think the absence of ID card is also political, because it weakens the masses from registering, which is something we have to address for people to have their ID card, because it can for them to freely register and vote. So why are we coming up and saying all these things? This is because you are coming from one municipal council. You guys can stand up in that municipal council as a youth in the environment and decide that we want this person to be the mayor. We want this person to be the parliamentarian. Well, a country where the ruling party has a majority in the national assembly is a weak country. This is the reason what happened right now in Togo. Foreign Asingwe had 2 tenures in office. 2 tenures in office expired. He went in for a 3rd tenure. Now he is now advocating. The parliament has changed the constitution that the president will be voted by the parliament. This is because the parliamentarians inside the parliament are owned by the president, so they cannot choose the constitution as they want. But in a country where a mixture of different political parties control the parliament, such a decree cannot pass easily. Now they have said that because it is no longer the masses voting the president anymore in Togo, it's the parliamentarians, it is by certain that foreign nationals will be voted. And when it's voted, take this from me, it is 6 years this time around, not 5 years anymore. So you now realize that the destiny of a nation is tied to its parliament and its senate, not its presidency. This is the reason why we are now saying that, okay, let's leave the presidency for now. Let's target the Senate and target the parliament and target
but some of the young persons are also asking that, who do we vote for? How do we understand that young persons are not sure about who to vote for? Is it that they are also tired? They are not convinced by the faces they have been seeing in the political scene so far? So why would they be confused about who to vote? And if you are watching like we did last time, just tell us the person that you would want to see mount the position of either a mayor or an MP or the president of the republic. Just forward the names to me so that we'll continue doing this every week to see those that Cameroonians want to be their mayors, their MPs, their senators, and president of the republic. Just send a text message and we'll count and tell you who is the leading, most liked person to be president of Cameroon.
Yes, Olu. I will start by telling my fellow Cameroonians that the electoral code provides that according to 2018 presidential election, which provides for 7 years mandate office for the president of the republic, we are supposed to have presidential election in Cameroon in October 2025. And this is supposed to come after municipal and legislative elections, because municipal and legislative are always twin elections in Cameroon as far back as 1997 that this had been happening. And for the twin election is supposed to take place in February 2025, because the last twin elections, municipal and legislative, took place in February 2020. And we have another election that people are not even talking about, but it's also in 2025, which is regional elections, because regional elections took place for the first time after the effective decentralization law of 2019 in 2020. That was on the 6th of December 2020 when regional councillors were elected for the very first time. Why are these recalls important? Because if you master the electoral calendar, what will come in your mind as a young person is that we need to first of all identify parliamentarians and mayors. Now, for the case of councillors who produce mayors, it is a little bit ambiguous to determine who becomes mayor, but you can just make a choice because it is a list. That's why we still come back to the issue of people not seeking to know, because a party, for example, Popular Action Party presents a council list in Boya Oban, and after that list is being voted by a direct universal suffrage from the people, then the 41 councillors come together and vote their first, second, and the rest of the other mayors, the mayor and their different deputies. This is what happens with municipal elections. For parliamentary elections, we have a parliamentary candidate and the alternate, and the two of them are being presented by a party, and when they win, this person becomes not only parliamentarian of that constituency, but what they call député de la nation, parliamentarian of the country. And Cameroonians are supposed to first of all start by identifying within their environment who are those people, that their actions, track record of their activities, their personality, the way they have been conducting themselves, permit that they become your parliamentarian, permit that they become your mayor or your councillor. It is your judgment. But this judgment should not be focused only on presidential. It should start from the local, because it is the local that construct the presidential and not the presidential that construct the local. And this is a step-by-step process. Because if we want to take the top-down approach, it might become very difficult, but if we take the bottom-top approach, it might become very easy. Identify councillors, identify parliamentarians, and from there, you can easily identify presidents. It's easy because if you take municipal council by municipal council, we have 64 municipal councils in Northwest and Southwest. And then from there, you can identify who are those powerful people that you can identify as potential mayors, potential parliamentarians. And from the different potential mayors, you do another comparative study. Who are those people who can likely be representing these regions as presidential candidates? And then from there, the image becomes clearer of who is more capable than who. This is the analysis of an active and upright citizen. Now, when it goes to political parties, there are individuals and there are political parties, and then there are also names. It is your decision as a Cameroonian who is active to identify that where do this person belong and what is the agenda of this person. What is the political agenda of this person? My message is very clear. Our objective is that let people vote only federalist candidates, federalist parliamentarians, federalist mayors, because we believe that if we have more federalists in the parliament, we will be able to hit the table in the parliament and say this is the political agenda that we are pushing for us to have a new form of state. Institutionally, this works easily when there are many people that are advocating for it. But it becomes difficult when the number is less and it's not even by the people that are affected. Politics is strategy and science. Someone that have not had the education of federal model of governance cannot be an effective advocate of federalism. This is just a natural factor. So you must understand, you must come from that background. That is why you cannot be an effective communicator in a language that you just learn it as an adult. But a language that you came from birth and they started speaking to you in sticks in your head and becomes like the primary language that you express yourself with on daily life. This too is what happens in politics. We must acknowledge that as it stands in Cameroon, we have a lot of stakes. We have a lot of stakes because we have a year with 4 elections that are looking at us in the face. And when the first electoral college will be called, believe you me, we will not have time for these conversations. We will not have time for these media outings. To be honest with you, it has not been easy, even with 2024, for us to be having regular media outings, because the work is enormous, but the personnel are few. And the personnel are few because there are very few informed people. Yeah, there are very few informed people.
Yeah, because we have not taken time also to educate the people. Because I want to take this one. Please, if you are watching and we want you to send us the names of persons that you think would inspire you to go and vote next year. Just send a name of the person that you think will inspire you and that you believe can make a change in Cameroon. If you think that, just send any name. We'll take some messages. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your panelists. Actually, it is very sad situation in Cameroon to see that up to now, it is really hard to point out a possible candidate who will stand to liberate a Cameroon. That goes back to the question I asked you, because many persons are confused.
Exactly.
As to, this one says, my name is Ngufo. I love the program. However, please, let's give the youths the right information. I am above 50 years old, never voted in my life. Reason because we have people who came out to lie to us. Please tell us the truth, not your interest. You see, many persons want to. Good evening, Mr. Kuman, other panelists in the studio. I'm so glad to hear from our secretary. Please help me thank him for his unlimited effort to make sure people, especially the youths, are registered in electoral list. Kudos to PAP. I'm Fidelis from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. Kudos to you all for this initiative to educate Cameroonians as far as the 2025 general election is concerned. But this one is, sir, you guys are really disgracing the youths. This is Prince Armstrong watching from Boya. I must confess and appreciate the heavy, educative, and enriching words from the both guest speakers on board. I am a youth who is so much interested in politics, but no one to encourage and mentor me. When I listen to the guest speakers on board, I am ashamed. Why? Because I'm really blank about politics in my country. You see that? Many persons say that. Somebody says, I'm 50 years, I've never voted. Because of how politicians have used the media.
Like we said, Mr. Liu, the kind of information we transmit to the masses is what shapes their thoughts and shapes their actions. The politicians that came in those days presented the people or their political parties. They didn't present them the system. If we had presented the people the system and how it operates, they would have known how to target it. People are not campaigning for good governance and change. They are campaigning for their political party. It looks like a national cake that every party is looking for an opportunity to cut their share and eat. But if actually they come on air to educate the people, they would have seen the essence of them participating in politics, not just in the political party. We sold political party, we did not sold true politics. That's why I say in Cameroon, what we have in Cameroon is not political rivalry, it's political enmity. An enemy is struggling to kill the other person instead of trying to conquer the other person's manifesto. In politics, we defeat manifesto. We don't look for a means to eliminate the individuals who are heading political parties. That fear has been instilled in the hearts of so many because why? We practice political enmity, not political rivalry. We are struggling to kill our opposite candidate instead of killing the idea of his manifesto. I think ideas should be the fights on political platforms, not guns, looking for a means to eliminate the person who is trying to overshadow you. If at all we came with positive and creative ideas to educate the masses, any educated Cameroonian will know where to align, will know who to pursue, and they will know who to vote. But you see, we have not even come with any positive manifesto. We are looking for guns to put down the person who is trying to contest against us in power. When you hear somebody say 50 years old, he has not voted, it is not because he doesn't want to vote, he's ignorant. And I'm not like insulting you, I'm just telling you that the politicians that came in those days showed us political parties. They didn't show us the kind of system they wanted to introduce to us. That's the reason why, following what Fabrice said, most Cameroonians are not even aware of what the constitution says. Electoral code, penal code, labor code, and all the codes in their country, they are not aware. Your right as a citizen of this country is to understand how things operate. It is not going to be the reason why you're going to make a choice either to vote or not to vote. But the issue is you are first and foremost totally ignorant of your role in bringing the change in your country.
That is the issue. Yeah.
You think that this change will come because some politicians sat in your own day and made that decision? No. Even the man who rides bike in the street, your vote can bring the change. The woman that rolls maize in the streets, your vote can bring the change. The guy who is selling pure water, your vote can bring the change. This is the collective responsibility of every citizen. And those of you who say you are not interested in politics, especially those of us from the kingdom of God, I want to challenge you. If you are a Christian, fasting and praying for this country to change, and you don't have a voter's card, you are the problem. Because the government will not change by prayer, the government will change by the voter's card.
Let me corroborate what you're saying. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Bad leaders are put into power by good citizens who have refused to vote.
Exactly.
Let's advise pastors and their members to get voters card because this country will never change only by prayers. Pastor Cletus is writing from Barombi. He's asking, are churches in Cameroon excluded from election? But this one also, good evening, Mr. Leo. This is greetings to Fabrice and my brother, Pastor Ambe, and any other in the studio just coming in. As a basic educational teacher, I've tried to talk about this registration to vote issue, but everyone of the almost 99% of them have vehemently refused that they can't waste even their 200 francs transport to buy puff-puff for the child to pay taxi to go vote. My advice is that if all pastors, priests in both the mainstream churches and the new churches ask members to go register and show them their cards at the peak of the elections, all religious bodies will choose a candidate and tell their Christians to vote a particular person. Mrs. Su is writing from Boya. I'm corroborating what you just said. Yeah.
Because the truth is, there is a wrong doctrine in the church, that the church is not supposed to be part of politics. And they fail to understand that the politicians that they are talking about are church members. Those ministers and parliamentarians are all in your churches, and you say the church is not part of politics. How can the church not be part of politics when the politics is part of the church? This is where the challenge is. Yeah. And I have been hitting hard until I've written a book with respect to that, because Christians need to sit down and think that they can pray a man from the roof to fly and land in a 2D. You will never pray anybody into a 2D. Even the scripture says when a righteous man rules, people rejoice. Righteous men don't rule by prayer. Righteous men are voted into office. If you want a righteous man to be a leader tomorrow, get your voter's card, go to the polling station and make the decision. That one vote can be the turning point of the next presidential candidate in the country. These are the things we keep sounding over and over. This idea of church is not involved in politics is one of the Jefferson's principles that came in America in those days, that separated the church with secular leadership. And they think that by virtue of that, they could completely detach the church from the day-to-day run of the politics of the nation, which is absolutely impossible. It is also a Machiavellian system of operation that secluded the church from politics. And this doctrine has been passed across for years until it has been imbibed into the very psyche of Christians to think that it is not their responsibility to determine who becomes the next president of the country. I wish to ask a question. Do you buy Maggie from another world as a Christian? Why people are not going to church buy Maggie from space? That same Maggie you are buying in the same market, politicians determine the price. The same cars you enter, politicians determine the price. The fuel you use, they determine the price. The house you stay in, determine the price. So what actually separates you as a Christian from politics? We stay in our churches and we are organizing 21 days fasting and prayers, which is very, very correct. I'm not against it. But you see, prayer alone is not sufficient. Even if you go to Acts of Apostles chapter 1, it says after Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus and committed suicide, there was a vacancy among the 12 apostles. After they stayed in the upper room fasting and prayer, they cast their vote to select the new person that was to replace Judas Iscariot. It's to let you understand that prayer is not sufficient. If prayer was sufficient, you will not pray and still plant crops. You will not pray and still go to work. You will not pray and still eat. Prayer is not sufficient. Prayer is a prayer we get inspiration. We take those inspiration and apply them to work, and then we get the necessary result. So if you are a Christian, you are praying that the nation should change, and you have no voters card, you are the problem. I think this education should be passed across in every church, in our liturgies on Sundays, in our sermons. People should be taught to understand that voting is a civic right, not a spiritual or a secular exercise. And as a citizen of the country, whether you like it or not, the laws of this country will affect you. If you pray in tongues, you will still make an ID card. You pray in tongues, you will still pay taxes. You pray in tongues, you will still follow the rules of the constitution of this country. That is how a nation is governed. So this political education is one thing I think our nation is missing, and it's very, very far back, and we must keep hitting. Even if we don't meet the target this year, let us take some years to educate our people. But I believe as the word is going out every day, people are becoming very, very sensitized, now, and I think it will help them.
So many persons are still wondering who to vote for. How do you explain that Cameroonians say they don't know who to vote for when a political class has been there for over 30 years? Why would they be confused? And keep the names coming. The person that you think can inspire you to become the next president of Cameroon, just send the name. Who inspires you the most here?
Yes, Mr. Leo, I will give you a share of experience that I have from a week ago. I was invited by this young, vibrant lady who manages an NGO called Action for Development and Empowerment to do a workshop on civic and political participation. So I decided to do it not in the regular way of going to explain a lot of theoretical concepts. I decided to put out faces of politicians. So I took the faces of politicians from 1970 till present, according to generation. And behold, nobody in that room, because we had 40 participants, nobody in that room could give the name of up to 5 of these politicians. So that is where I drew the conclusion that there is a serious problem of civic engagement and political participation. I'm telling you, this is a document we conceive. So there were in that document there are 32 phases. So we have the class of President Paul Biya, Nijon Frundi, Daikole Daisala, Gaga Haman, some of these guys that have died, yes, Damudam Joya, and then the middle class of some of the leaders who are now the national presidents of their party, the Cantos, the Cabras, Joshua Ushi, Patricia Damjoya, Madam Kawala, and so on and so forth. So these young people are people that they register to participate in this workshop of age between 23 to 39, because our objective is that it should be people who are eligible to be candidates. And these are young people who belong to civil society organizations and have been doing at least a community work or the other. So imagine the one that have not even attempted to engage in a community activity or in a CSO activity, or have never been engaged but just following to have academic diploma for the sake of having. So this is where I asked myself, oh, we still have a big job to do. We still have a lot of tasks ahead of us. Because these same young people, if you put the pictures of all the footballers of Cameroon from Roger Miller to present, they will give you all the names, and they will even give you details of how the score goes, and even background details of who they are and so on. The same too with entertainers, those who sing music. But the most important sector which defines how you take in and take out air is politics. We are not the one who made it like that. We grow up and saw it like that. I am privileged as a young person to have started young, and I understood that if we do not participate to change the narrative, we are doomed to succumb by the consequences of those who take the decisions on our behalf. So from that workshop, I tried as much as possible to share this document with young people, circulate them. And this is what I do in most WhatsApp group nowadays. I just create time. I don't have time for conversations that are not productive. I just create time and I share these documents. Let people read them. Sometimes we go and remove extracts of information from the electoral code or the constitution, which has to do with election, which has to do with balancing civic responsibility and rights, which has to do with knowing political parties. I am a politician, I belong to a political party, but I take it as a responsibility to teach on political participation, because I realize that just preaching my political ideology and political agenda is not sufficient.
It doesn't help.
It's not sufficient. So on that basis, I become now a political participation educator, where I organize workshops, I organize seminars. When we go to the field for voter registration campaign, we tell people, do you know that apart from PAP, there are other political parties existing in this area? We make the choice open. So you know that Apostle Ambe and Fabrice may have similar ideas, but they do not belong to the same political casket. So these are things that Cameroonians should know. But of course, it doesn't mean that we cannot work together. Of course, every day we are discussing on how we can put on bridges and work together for the good of the country. And those who have been ahead, the clarion call is that we need to reflect as frontliners. Frontliners without age, frontliners without political position, but people who are faces in the media, people who are faces in the society, people who are faces that are being recognized, people whose name could be typed in Google or in any social media platform and will have tangible information of impact to it. These people need to start thinking, how will I explain to the generation that is preceding us that we had the opportunity, golden opportunity of 2025 to change the political narrative of Cameroon, but we did not. It is left to our consciences to judge.
Okay. Good to meet Mr. Liu. I'm Modest from Bamenda. Let those politicians stop fighting among themselves and focus on educating the youth, giving them reasons why they must give them the trust and go for their voters' cards this time. Let them think but on how to make a change than gaining the office. But so many persons have written on the need for political parties to stop fighting and to go for a coalition. That may also be one of the things that the youth have waited upon, because many of them have expressed that wish for the past 3-4 years. Nothing is coming forth.
Yes, Mr. Liu. I was on a sister channel once with some politicians from PCRN, MRC, and SDF. And when we went on the platform, they began insulting each other. And I said, this is what we call in medical terms multiple sclerosis. It's a medical situation where the cells that were destined to protect the body begin to fight against each other. These political parties were supposed to be joining their forces together to kick out the ruling party in question. But they have left the enemy in question. They are targeting themselves or the rival, let me not put it enemy, and they are now fighting against each other. And that's not politics anymore. That's why you see when we go on TV platforms, you see either one political party is insulting the other. As for the coalition, Mr. Liu, I've learned something about coalition. The arrogance amongst our political leaders, everybody wants to be at the head. There cannot be a coalition until humility is paramount. And we must select people who are competent to get the job done, not those who think that they are the superstars. Because there are people who believe that they know it all and they are not willing to submit to anybody else. And on the issue of coalition, I've also learned one thing, Mr. Liu. You realize that people sometimes follow the face of a man, not the political party. Yeah, they follow the face of a man. If you see what happened in Senegal, it was Usman Sonko that pulled the youths. It was his face, not the political party. Yeah. A political party, the Labour Party, had been in Nigeria for years.
Yes,
nobody recognized it. A face came into it, and then it sprung. If the political parties in question in this country form a coalition, and there is no face, I may shock you to understand that in a population of 27 million Cameroonians, we have eligible about 15 million that can vote. Within those 15 million, only 3.5 to 4 million vote. Out of the 11 million, they are not interested. These 11 million are not interested because they don't want to vote, because they have not seen a candidate among the existing candidates that they can vote. Do you know that one man can come as a face in a political party and it stirs up at least 6 other million used to vote? So the coalition is not even the issue. The issue we should be talking right now is that the masses of this nation, who are the persons they see competent enough to lead them, let these people form now that political party. Imagine that they are mentioning names of Fabrice here, mention the names of this one here. If these persons like Fabrice, Etofis, and the rest come under a political party in this country, the people will follow the face of a man they think they can trust, not the name of a political party. Because the Labour Party had no name, it had but the face of a man. Yeah. Usman Sonko's party had no name until Sonko came. EFF in South Africa had no name. It was an existing political party. As a matter of fact, Julius Malema was a member of ANC. And when he started in ANC, he was there. They said they used to take him to go and drink alcohol. But when he left ANC and came to EFF, he said the members that were doctors and professors, they told him to go back to school. He came to EFF when he had A levels. He had gone back to the University of South Africa and obtained a master's in political science. And now he came up as the face of EFF. Look at what EFF has become today in South Africa. Because a political party is more of the face of an individual than just the name of a party or a constitutional sector, an executive bureau. I think it's important we start looking for the faces that can cause Cameroonians to get interested in politics. Because most of them have become very, very inactive, indolent, reluctant to politics, because the faces that are on the flyers as political candidates do not stir them up or cheer them up or activate them to go into politics. It's high time we forget about all these political party names. Let's look for the faces that can cause Cameroonians to get interested in politics.
This is a very good point.
Yes, but Fabrice, you guys you are in the section of PAP. We had presidential elections 2018 till now, no coalition. What is wrong?
I think in line with what Dr. Ambe said as far as the issue of coalition is concerned, because there come a time when a country is in search of a group of persons, or that person that could be the magic one, but nobody for now, as many claim, have the magic one. So if Cameroonians are not seeing that magic one, they have to, by some disposition, create such a person. And there are existing people. I am there, I'm into politics. Dr. Ambe is there. Many people are expressing their wish that he could take up tickets in a political party. We have people of other political parties, CRM, PCRN, SDF. We have people there also, great names and great faces. We have people in the civil society. We have people in the religious body. We have independent people, even in the media, that the population think if this face is in front, we will rally behind this face. Now, the question of coalition is a very, very tricky question, but it should be tackled in a strategic manner. Because coalition should not be looked upon as the issue of political parties coming together. Coalition should rather be looked upon at three different stages. Coalition at the level of securing more seats in the parliament or more municipal councillors for opposition political parties who have similar agenda. If all federalist parties agree that since we do not have the resource to cover all the 360 municipal councils in Cameroon, let's see how where PAP is strong, we secure the seat of PAP. Where SDF is strong, we secure the seat of SDF. Where MRC is strong, we secure the seat of MRC. Where PCRN is strong, we do so. Where MPSC is strong, we do so. Because in doing so, all of us in our different party constitution and manifesto, we mention federalism as the form of government to replace the current. It's easy for us to talk on that basis. On the second stage, if we want to go in for presidential election, then we start looking ourselves. Who is more competent than who is capable of doing what? But we must also be honest as leaders to accept that A is having more capacity, skills, talent, ability to manage office A than B. This is the issue, and this is where if the faces come together and then we sit and agree that at this point in time, this is the time for this person and this is the time for this face.
Yes.
Not more than one person can be a president of a country at a time.
No, it's not possible.
This is the issue. But a group of people can form a government, can form a cabinet, can form the league that will manage and change the country. This is to mean that if Sonko were to consider his personal interests, I am very sure that they will have failed woefully in the elections that were precipitated, because they just came out of prison and then elections were organized all in pressure. But because the guy had to sacrifice,
of course, because
it is a teamwork, and he recognized that this my junior person in terms of position in the party and also in terms of popularity in the people. But this secured for them a victory that will forever be remembered in the history of Senegal and African politics.
Of course.
Let certain positive things from other countries inspire us.
Yeah.
When people are capable, let them be given the chance and let them be accepted by the society. Let them be accepted by fellow leaders. If Dr. Ambe is more capable to manage the municipal seat of Bonaberi, let other leaders there be willing to sacrifice and say, let Dr. Ambe be the candidate there. And as well, if he is more capable in the coalition that we accept to form to be presidential candidate, let's be honest to ourselves to say he is. So these are the things. If we start telling our truth about these things, I'm sure the issue of coalition will become a more simpler issue to resolve. It becomes difficult for the simple purpose of ego, where people think that if not them, then no other person is more qualified, or because presidential elections are after 7 years, people add 7 years to their age and they discover that they are out of the game, and it becomes an issue of do or die. So this is the problem, and this is where I have problem with it. Yeah. I started politics at the age of 21, and then I have been in the political scene for 10 years now, and I can say that I am willing to let go positions that I've already held for a certain period of time in order to let other people practice, other people come in. Let us give chance to other people to also show what they can do in coalition, within political parties. And let us not think that it is only the coming together of political parties. Even other organizations, religious bodies, civil society organizations, independent candidates. So the discussion is a more open discussion. I believe strongly that 2025 is the time for us to do it big and let the talks be resonated. Let us discuss fruitfully. Let us be optimistic. But it is not a single person. It is a bundle. It is a broom. This broom can sweep cleaner than a single stick.
Okay, it's going to soak. But how do we get young people to get the spirit that we now are dishing out from this platform? How do you get many young persons involved, especially young girls?
Mr. Leo, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. I want to strongly believe that we should be held responsible and accountable for the ignorance of the youth in this country. Because in the past, we looked at politics as winning the presidential office. We look at politics as coming to defend a political party on a platform. I don't belong to any political party, but I think it's my responsibility with the knowledge I have to educate and stir up the youths to make sure that the change that is going to come, the change comes will affect even me. The issue is if we leave only political party members to come on TV platform together, but they will educate them concerning their party, not politics. They will educate them concerning the change they will bring from their party, not the change that will take place if people actively get involved. I can freely speak because I'm not into any political party, so I can easily communicate. Now, we are already planting this seed, and I believe before the elections will come up, a lot of youths will come up. You saw what happened in Nigeria. Even the churches, pastors from their pulpit, took up the responsibility and began challenging the youths in their churches and every member to go and get their voters card. And that thing turned around the entire political landscape in Nigeria. This is exactly what we are doing. Educating the masses to take up their responsibility and to vote. To vote. I had the same feeling when I traveled to South Africa. I had a meeting with some Cameroonians and they were saying that they cannot vote because they already know who's going to win. I tell them, no. Which of you has ever voted? And everybody was quiet. And I asked, they stole election. Did they steal your election? Did they steal your vote? Have you ever voted to have lost a candidate that you said they stole the election? I said, no. We just sit and then we follow what is in the air and then we follow the trend and just begin to make noise and begin to clamor. Is it not a concern to realize that we have 27 million persons, but the ruling party wins with 3.something million people? Separate 3.something million people from 27 million people, will tell you how minute the number is that votes in this country. Now imagine if everybody gets involved, actively involved, you will realize that the political landscape will scatter, because Labour Party is no longer just a local party. They have had representatives, House of Rep members, they have had senators in Nigeria. Even though they didn't win the presidential election, they are still making advances in years to come. And there is guarantee that because they are on that political landscape, there's a possibility that things will change, because the change started last year. From the time that they voted and seized some members of the representative of the National Assembly and also some Senate members, even some local councils, you will realize that there's a shift already, because the grip of the ruling party is no longer as strong as it used to be.
Exactly.
So we may not think of the presidency this year, but we may think of the council that will weaken the grip of the presidency this year. And when you cut down a tree, the tree does not fall immediately. The tree begins to go gradually. And as the processes are going forward, you realize you are weakening the existence of that tree as far as life is concerned. You may be surprised to realize that the next elections that are coming up in this country, the ruling party doesn't even have the capacity it used to have. But throwing the towel in the air and expecting things to fall.
Yeah, but the program is not against the ruling party.
No.
If you think that the ruling party is doing so well, register a mass so that you help consolidate the power of the ruling party. Yes.
Of course, we're talking about change.
All we are talking about is to register a mass and get many persons voted. Why don't you think that even within the CPDM party, young persons can pick up so many positions?
We are not talking about against the ruling party. We are talking about a change, and a change cannot take place with the party in power. The party in power.
Yeah, but different persons can take up positions even within the CPM.
If we want to change, then we have to change the existing protocol.
We're talking about the dynamics of the youth here. I don't want that tomorrow I'll be called to the communication council that I
no.
a program against yes. So we are talking about getting young people. What is the strategy? Do people even know the number of MPs, how they are distributed, the strategy that could be used to get them voted? And the PAP also was making some proposals for a change in the number of representations.
Exactly. Yeah, from 2023, we have been doing a lot of research on the issue of voters registration, also on the issue of administrative partition of constituencies and municipal councils, you know, trying to understand how administratively Cameroon was divided into what we call regions, divisions, subdivisions, and then constituencies, carving out parliamentary seats. One thing that amazes us a lot is the fact that from the formation of Cameroon democracy and the 1996 constitution that was adopted, Cameroon is operating with 180 parliamentarians since 1970 date. So it's a call for concern. Our population is growing at geometric rate, but the number of representation is not changing. How is that? Because in 2024, we are not supposed to be talking about Cameroon with 180 parliamentarians. The number of representatives, according to electoral code, who are supposed to be represented by one parliamentarian has been magnified. But we are still having the same number of representation. The same thing, when you look at some constituencies, let me take Mezam, for example. The whole Mezam, with 7 municipal council areas and population density 5 times higher than that of Nja Elobo, where the president is coming from, have only 3 parliamentary seats. But when you go to Nja Elobo, they are having up to 5 parliamentary seats. And then when you go to neighboring Bambutos, where it is the neighboring division of Mezam in the West region, Bambutos have 4 municipal councils, 4 parliamentary seats. So you begin to ask yourself, what were the criteria that was used in order to do this constituency demarcation? Because in terms of population density, which is the factor mentioned by the electoral code, in terms of the number of persons that each parliamentarian is supposed to represent, in terms of the number of municipal councils, so you begin to ask yourself, how is that possible? So these are things that you can only argue against them. You can only seek for reform if you know. That is why we still keep saying, dear young people, dedicate some time to listen to educative programs like this. Dedicate some time to read about the documents that are in this country. Do not always give the wavering statement of nothing will change, nothing will work. Seek for a solution. Your voice could be that ultimate voice of change. Our country has for a long time been on stagnation because people are on assumption, presumption, group belief, what they call in knowledge seeking, dogma and prejudice. Because people just get up and say, my vote does not count. Who told you your vote doesn't count? There are places in this country since I started doing politics. CBDM has never seized those places. It's not because those people have special arrangement with CBDM. It's because the people have main business that CBDM cannot take it. We have Noon under UDC. We have Onkam, Bafang under UNS. We have Vina under UNDP. We have Mayokani under NGR. We have Mezam before Anglophone crisis under SDF. We have Akwaya and Kupe Maningoba under PAP in the 2013s. These are places where no other political party could win there, no matter what, no matter the rigging machinations.
We saw what Cabral Libi did
in Nyong Ekele.
Yeah.
So that is just to tell you that it's a matter of mass mobilization, massive registration, protection of the vote, being knowledgeable about the process, understanding the key actors in the process, knowing how Elecam operates, knowing how Constitutional Council operates, and identifying the charismatic leader that could take the vision. This will produce results.
Dr. Ambe, can we also say that the political figures have failed over the years to appropriately profile themselves in favor of the population, telling them an alternative story, how they'll better their lot, rather than just fighting? Because as he says, many persons can hardly identify who is this leader, what this leader stands for, what better offer this leader has against what we already have.
Yes, Mr. Leo, I will not reduce the personalities who have won the politicians. I respect their personality and I really appreciate what they have done so far. But nothing lasts forever. I think they have been on the stage for too long. A good dancer should know when to leave the stage.
Exactly.
These are people who have been on the stage for too long, and our people are no longer convinced that they have anything to offer them. I think it's humility for them to acknowledge the fact that they can still be at the background as guidance and mentors to the younger generation, whom people are aspiring or desiring them to become the leaders of tomorrow. I think it's very important, because this idea of holding on to power when you are no longer needed is where the trouble is. People may not want to anymore. It is humility for you to acknowledge that, okay, my time is over. Let me give space for the other generation to come up, because you can still excel when somebody else takes power.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for us to start acknowledging this. But when you hold on to a generation who no longer desire to see you anymore, they don't aspire leadership, that's a problem. How do you know people need you, Mr. Leo? Number one, leadership is influence. The first thing you must know is that as a leader of a political party, if you cannot influence the people towards your direction, know your tenure by virtue of the popular reaction is over. You are not supposed to be voted in your political party out. The masses are telling you that, my friend, we do not need you. And it is the problem in this country, because we don't want to acknowledge that. See what happened to Macky Sall. Macky Sall was heavily celebrated in the days of Abdoulaye Wade. Abdoulaye Wade attempted to push the election for a 13-year office. They told him that if he dares that, they will annihilate his entire family. Because of Macky Sall, they lifted Macky Sall, celebrated him. Then you see, a good dancer, he did not know when his time had gone out of the stage. He intended to stay the chest in the way that Sonko rose up. This is where we don't have
the issue.
The gap between the existing generation and the generation coming from behind. There is a gap between the generation that is ahead and the one behind, because they don't want to connect with them. They want to hold on to power. If they told you how Senegalese celebrated Macky Sall,
you will not believe that it's the same Senegalese who are chasing Macky Sall.
That is what a good dancer must know when to leave the stage.
Exactly.
Our people have danced for too long. I remember in 2013, we sang Pa Ayaye. Aya was the trumpet.
Yes.
But you see, as the days go by, it's become obsolete.
Exactly.
Some other person has risen within the rank of that party also, whose face, I've said it over and over. A political party is not the name, it's the face. That's the reason why they don't put the name of a party on a poster, on a flyer. They put the face of the presidential candidate, because it is a face they are following. Put a face now on a flyer that is the political party. Everybody will go there. Even if the devil is behind that party, they will follow the, because an angel is the one leading it. They say if an angel leads a party headed by demons, people will follow. So we should be able to understand now in this country that the Cameroonian population, they are tired of all the faces we used to know. Let's get new active faces that the people are yearning for. That's politics, because it's already a clear sign that the people they are gunning for, they are yearning for, are the people who are influencing them. And that's leadership. You can't direct a people who you cannot influence. So it's important for the Cameroonian masses and all the political stakeholders in this country to be humble enough to understand that they used to dance on that stage. The rhythm of the music has changed and it's not going towards that direction. They should step out from that stage, let a new dancer mount the stage.
Let a new dancer on the stage. But how, the question still stands. How do you convince these guys who have been lording over political parties for the past 15, 20 years to identify those who can now move, influence the population, even in the interest of their political parties, while they play the advisory role?
I think, Sir Leo, one of the persons I learned a lot from is Justice Aya, because I think when he...
Let me just cue you.
Yes, I understand what he said, yeah, so I just wanted to...
Take the case of Parti Univers.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it.
Exactly.
Cabral emerged.
Came and
take
took
the case
the party.
Of the PCR, and now we are talking
even
about
PAP. By 2009, nobody knew PAP.
Okay.
Yeah, so Aya...
Nobody knew.
Yes, Aya Paul took PAP, because many people up to today think that PAP is the party of Aya Paul. This is wrong. PAP was created by Professor Mukwelengo in 1991, but Professor Mukwelengo died in 2002. So the party was inactive because it did not have a dynamic leadership. So by 2008, when Justice Aya resigned from CPN, he took PAP by 2009, and then the party got a name in 2011 when he participated in presidential elections. So there are parties that there are certain names attached to the party in such a way that the name cannot, when the name is out of the party, the party needs another name in order for it to survive.
Dynamic name, yeah.
Exactly. So this is the dynamic of Cameroon politics, because we have seen it in so many political parties. But this is also about intergenerational conversation.
Okay.
People who are in their 70s and 80s should know how to discuss with people in their 50s and 40s on how to co-manage a corporate organization. A corporate organization is also a political party, because in the political party you should know that when you are 70 and 80, the person who is 50 and in 70, you people have a disconnection of 20 years, like Dr. Prof. Ambe said. So people have a disconnection of 20 years. This 2 decades is very important. Now, the same thing with people who are in their 40s and 50s. They need to know how to discuss and ensure continuity with the people who are in their 20s and 30s, because there's also a disconnection. So this lack of conversation and ensuring continuity in most political parties comes to be the problem. I think we have managed to have one of the leaders who, at the point where he thought that he has done his best, he said, I am leaving. And then a new team came up and then has been able to shape the party and put it out there, where today many people, when we come up in a program like this, they say, I want to join PAP, because they saw a new leadership and then they are seeing something different. So we are also encouraging other political parties leaders. There is no prize that they are giving for somebody for being the national president of a political party for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. There's no prize. And I always say that I want to take myself to be example. I don't intend to be a life secretary general in Popular Action Party. No, there will be a time that I want to change position, and after changing the position, I also want to step down, because if politics is for the sake of change, it is also to give impact in a generation. Because as a human being, there is what we call optimal productive point in your life. When you are at that optimal productive point, where everybody celebrates you, they see you as a hero, if you do not create the most outcome, the most impact out of that particular moment, what happens is that you start declining. And as you start declining, you start losing all the support that you get from people. That's exactly why Dr. Ambe said, know when to come to the scene and know when to go out of the scene. So there is a generation like our generation where things are inclining, because somebody in his late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, early 40s are seen as the face of this generation, which reflect, like people in the 80s and late 70s are seen as people who reflect this generation, this internet generation, this charismatic generation, this generation where things are done differently. But beyond that generation, the young people born in the 2000s do not identify again with these people, and this is where the problem comes from. And that is where I say that I submit to the older generation to understand that it is not our making that we think the generation is having these priorities and these frivolities. No. It is a wave. It's a trend. It is what is happening around the world. What explains a country celebrating military rule of a young guy who comes in power, who is holding a gun? Because someone holding a gun is very unpredictable. You don't know what is in his mind. You don't know the next policy that this person will implement. But you see people coming in the street and celebrating. Then you ask yourself, is it because the person is young and can identify with the generation, or is it because they are just celebrating for the sake of celebrating? So people get emotional about the things they love beyond reason.
Okay, Dr. Ambe, how do we ensure that this generational conversation flows, that smooth handing over of
power,
the command button, and what extra should the young people do to assert themselves? Because even if you want power, you need to also show
the capacity,
your capacity to rule, or the capacity to be responsible. You have to prove that, okay, we are ready and right.
Yeah, I think the younger generation should have a role to play, like what you just said, very important. I think the older persons also may be looking behind and see nobody coming. Because I think in a relay, you only hand the baton to somebody who's available. So if there is nobody behind coming, the relay cannot go. Because politics is like a relay. Once you are quitting the stage, you must hand the baton to somebody else. The youth shy away from political responsibility. So how do you expect the elderly persons also to hand the baton to the younger generation? But that is not enough reason, because I think every successful leader must be able to raise a mentee. So they equally fail in their responsibility by raising people to take over responsibilities after they depart. Because they have an entitlement mentality that they are meant to stay in power and die in power. You can't be accusing the government in question for holding on to power when your political party, you also hold on to power. It means you are trying to duplicate what you are trying to insult. So it is their responsibility to make sure that they put the younger generation closer and start planting in their mind that we will no longer be on the stage anymore. You guys should prepare. I think if they had prepared a younger generation to start thinking of walking in the shoes of their fathers, then they would have developed interest in those young men to pursue the political career that they so much desire. But I think this wall they build between them and the younger generation is that they make the younger generation understand that they are just there to work as errand boys for them to stay until they achieve what they want to achieve. Just go as a young man in a political party and attempt to contest for presidency right now in that political party. They will fight you tooth and nail. As a matter of fact, you will become the enemy of that party. No matter how much you invested in terms of time, resources, and energy in that political party, they will fight you. Because why? It is a status quo. It is maintained. This person is there. We have to respect him. It is shocking to realize that a young man, for instance, like you, Mr. Liu, you can enter into the ruling party and you say you are presenting your candidacy as a presidential aspirant. The members of that party will fight because they are used to a monarchical system of government where somebody who has been there must be till their kingdom come. No, I think every successful political party must have a serious electoral challenge every year within the party to restructure the party and even challenge the person who has been as the chairman and the presidential flag bearer. If such a thing is not taking place in the party, I cannot respect that kind of political party. That's why sometimes when political party call me to come and join them, I first of all look at their modus operandi for the past 10 years. I said, this man has been the presidential flag bearer as well as the chairman, and he will fight anybody who attempts to contest. It tells me that we are also dealing with another power monger to go and fight another power monger. It doesn't make sense. So I think it's the responsibility for the older generation to be humble enough to acknowledge that at this moment in time, it's our responsibility to raise a younger generation and lead, because succession is very, very important. A leader can't be considered a leader until he has raised a successor. And I think this is where we are missing it in almost every sphere of leadership. You must be preparing, because you will definitely quit the stage one day. Now, the youth who have even attempted to venture into the political terrain, Mr. Liu, the battles they have within their own political party is even stronger than the one they face with the opposition. I'm telling you, if you call most of these young men who are in political parties, the political party they belong to, the kind of political contest they face within that party, if you are fighting this kind of battle at home, what will you do when you go out? What will you do if you are in for say PCRN? They are fight. Look at what happened to Tanfu. He was kicked out of MRC because he attempted to challenge the powers in existence. Now, such a person is being bad in his own political party. What will happen if he contests against somebody who is against his political party? So I used to tell people that the politics within political parties is even more dangerous than the politics against other political parties. These are some of the diseases we must treat that are eating the very fabric of political parties in this country. So it's important.
Okay, very, very important. Now, Fabrice, just get that done. Okay, you done already? Okay. We are looking at what needs to be done. How do we also create a synergy between the existing political platforms and the civil society, identifying people who are not active politicians and getting them to also accompany the work you guys have been doing so far?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Liu, you just asked the right question and the right time. I also want to use the opportunity from your question to salute CCFGA, Coalition of Federalist Activists and Group. They contacted us through their chair, Sir Mike Etaki, and their Secretary General, Sir Ben Aki, congratulating the Popular Action Party for their voters registration campaign for the past 2 years. And that's to say we have done something visible, and they congratulated us, but also we defined areas of collaboration on how to enlarge this activity and reach all spheres of especially the English-speaking regions, which is their preoccupation of how people can renew their cards, those who misplace their card during the turbulent moments, and those who are displaced, how they can transfer their voting from the old resident areas to the new resident places. So we discussed a couple of things upon which we are going to work to define guidelines and to establish. To answer your question again, I would say I have had a very productive conversation with coalition of civil society groups of Douala and Boya, with whom we've defined areas of collaboration, because collaborating with civil society organizations is not only about defining the candidate, defining the political narrative, but on common issues of common interest, like voters registration campaign, like civic education, like political participation education, because those are things that are lacking, and it is the source of most of the misconduct and the vacuum of people to participate that we see out there. So of course, every political party needs to have civil society partners with whom they work on specific topics and specific issues. And of course, we also work with FES, which do yearly training of young leaders in different fields of strengthening their capacity, their skills, their capacity to manage an organization in a structural manner, in an effective and productive manner, in such a way that you can deliver to the people if you're given the capacity to become a leader. Because we had one program, they call it Young Candidates. So the Young Candidate is a program where they've bring together young politicians from different political parties. All of them are vying to become either parliamentarians or municipal councillors. And then in this program, we are trying to be open enough to each other to debate about how to go into elections, because these are all new faces that have never participated in elections, but also these are people who are taken from the age of 23 to 35. So they are really very new. Now, with this set of people, we have different perspective of working, which is completely different from those of the party leaders that all these young people are coming from. So we found commonalities in ourselves. We find it easy to work together. We find it easy to create bridge with civil society organizations, with traditional authorities, with religious authorities, and even the institutions. Because at first I used to do bias analysis of institutions until I started being open to understand how they function. It could have been very difficult for the Fabrice Lena of 2019 to take his time, go to Elekam and find out how they organize voter registration. Until I had to ask myself, but I go to TV and then I talk about the inabilities of Elekam. I have never gone to Elekam to find out what is happening. So I had to evaluate myself and say, no, this is wrong. Go to them, ask them how they organize registration, ask them how they do communication, and behold, when I went to them, they took the name of my political party, they took our voter registration activities, and then they started communicating about PAP in their platform. So when we had to prove that we are a registered legal political party and we are doing this activity, they started communicating, and then they added us in the Elekam list of political parties for outdoor activities. So sometimes we just have prejudices, we just have preconceived notions, but let's try. Let the battle be above us in the battlefield, but let's not have the defeatist mindset of we are already defeated. And our conversation as young politicians, as a young political team, as Team PAP, is open. We are open to everyone. We are open to anyone who thinks that PAP is the best platform for you to become a candidate, parliamentary candidate, regional candidate, municipal councillor candidate, any of the candidates that you want to present yourself, you can come to the PAP, you register yourself, you follow our political activities and political agenda, and then we grow with you. As far as the presidential candidate is concerned, this is reserved for the party to decide, but it is open for all local elections for this kind of persons to come, because we are talking about large number of people and constituency representation. So our discussion is also open. If Dr. Professor Apostle Ambe Valentine says, I want to stand as parliamentary candidate for Bonaberi, that is very popular there, because I know if he stands there, I'm not seeing anybody that would defeat him to become a parliamentarian. Why not? Our platform is open, just like any other civil society member, like Mr. Andium Emmanuel or Mr. Andimancho or Professor Mark Anthony. Any of these people with whom we collaborate in the media and even out of media, if you feel that you want to stand as a candidate in our platform, it is open. We are open to religious authorities. There was someone who asked a question whether if you are a local preacher, you can stand as a candidate. Legally, in the constitution, there is no hindrance for such a person. You are a citizen like any other citizen. We have full political rights to enjoy. Do not limit yourself because you have chosen a profession and you think that the profession prohibits you. No. In Cameroon, there is no profession that prohibits you apart from military and diplomatic service. And they had their conditions as clearly and outrightly explained in the Cameroon Electoral Code. So we are open to everyone, local and international partners. And for us, we are building our bridges already. We are building partnerships already. Even with other political parties, we are building it, because it's not a particular political party's thing, and it's not also an individual thing. It's a collective effort that we can do as a people, as a country in need of change, to do the change and have the change that we so much desire.
Now, Dr. Apostle Ambe, we are 2024 April already. Yeah. How much time do we still have? Can you remind us on the
I think we have 4 months remaining, exactly 4 months for voters registration to end, because voters registration is 1st of January to the 31st of August for every year. And one other thing that people need to know is that when you register, Elecan gives you a récépissé. Just like when you do your ID card, they give you a récépissé. Now, when you hold that, you don't need to misplace it. You need to be a responsible citizen. You go keep it somewhere carefully. And after August, in September, they do what they call cleanup of electoral list. Cleanup of electoral list has to do with people that have died, whose names are still in electoral register, people that have changed location or residences, military personnel, I think death certificates. That's what they call cleanup. So when they do their cleanup, they now focus on printing of the biometric card itself. So the printing of biometric card is usually at the end of the cleanup process, which by October, November, people should be having their cards. And for the past 2 years, many people have been complaining that some of the cards in 2023 have not come out. This is true. I had to find out from an Elecam official, and they said yes, this is true for some cases, and they are looking forward that 10 months before Electoral College, all the cards will be printed, and sometimes it has to be distributed with emergency service. So this is why you need to follow a political platform, because PAP has created a platform where we inform people on follow-up of getting your card, follow-up on how to do when Electoral College is being called, because we can get up today and then there is a decree that we are having local elections as prescribed by the Electoral Code in February 2025. So what do we do? People get confused. People don't know exactly what to do. So you can already come and we give you the guidelines. If you want to be a candidate, we have already outlined all what it takes for you to be eligible. There are a lot of technical documents in composing to become a candidate that if you are not careful, Constitutional Council will give you irreservable, and then it will now become that they have done this, they have done that. I came to realize that most of these things is because people are not always prepared, and then they just go about doing it in a very haphazard manner. The politics of preparing on the eve is a very wrong politics.
Okay.
Because most of the time, after presidential local elections, people, we took all our 2019, 2020, 2021 in Cameroon for electoral hold-up. 3 years. And then we started thinking about 2025 in 2022. We have already consumed 3 years.
That's the question.
So this is,
how much time do we still have?
So this is the problem.
Yeah.
So what is smart enough for us to do is to utilize the short time that we have, because we have just 4 months for electoral registration to end, and then to prepare for the process itself. We have just 4 remaining months, and we don't know when the electoral court will be called. It can take us by surprise. So we have to be prepared now.
Apparently, we are still dancing, Dr. Apostle. And yeah, because we started talking about this 2 years ago.
Yes.
On the need for coalition, on the need for people to get ready.
Preparation.
And when you look at the political class itself, do you see a class that is ready for elections? Because he says we have just 4 months. No coalition. Nobody is even telling you that I'm ready to take over, and these are the alternative measures I'm going to present to fix.
They will tell you they are doing underground work.
Yeah, for forever.
They are doing underground work, and because they don't come on the media doesn't mean that they are not working. They will tell you, and just like any other political party will tell you. But the truth is, election is something that is public, and once you stir up the population, stir up the masses, and the followership is there, you will know. Because the reaction of the masses, as a matter of fact, Cameroon is not like a country preparing for elections next year. The atmosphere is too dead, too cool. Do you know that nobody
is distinguishing themselves and then making the moves and pulling? Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. Do you know that Cameroonians were more involved in the presidential election of Nigeria than any other elections? That's because the elections had fire.
They follow
it went everywhere in Nigeria,
Trump,
and affected Nigeria and its neighbors until everybody was so involved. When Ruto was to be elected president of Kenya, the theme of the election, the atmosphere was charged until Cameroonians were involved into Bashir becoming president. The fire in Senegal was so hot until it affected even the other countries. I don't know if people in Central Africa know there's a election in Cameroon next year. I don't even know if Nigerians. I have not seen any Nigerian blogger talking about elections in Cameroon, even on social media, like we did last year. Cameroonian bloggers, Nigerian bloggers, churches everywhere, you could feel the fire of the election in the atmosphere. But yeah, it looks like there's no election next year. As a matter of fact, I am aware that there's election in South Sudan this year, and the fire in the atmosphere is even somehow too hot as compared to the elections in Cameroon. So I think the electoral class, the people who are supposed to go in for elections, they have not stirred up the masses to really be involved in these so-called elections coming up, and they have a lot of work to do, and that time is not even there, because I don't see how you're going to start putting 4 months to register. I don't see how you're going to put in the state of 12 months to go in for elections. The time is too short. But what I think,
there's another thing, Pastor Ami, without cutting you, what I always want to emphasize is the fact that,
because you guys are going to be running for coalition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have 7,700,000 plus registered according to Elecam statistics. If we preach to people to the extent that we can have 6 million or 6.5 out of these 7 million effectively vote, there will even be there will be a change. I believe so, because there is no magic that we are going to do to have up to 5 million people within 4 months. This is out of question. But now, the local election calendar, it is what the electoral code says. We don't know what is in the mind of those managing the executive arm of the government in Yaoundé. This is another issue, because remember in 2018, the mandates of parliamentarians and mayors who took office in 2013 expired in 2018, and by presidential prerogative provided by the constitution, the mandate were extended twice for 24 months. And Cameroonians did not even question it, because it's questionable according to the electoral code. It's questionable because the electoral code gives it clearly that the mandate of the municipal councillor elections are supposed to be conducted 20 days before expiry of their mandate. That's for mayors and councillors. For parliamentarians, it's not supposed to be 40 days later than end of their mandate. This is for parliamentarians. You get the point. Now, the president uses his prerogative to postpone one time and postpone 2 times. And then people sit quiet and are not saying anything. The respect of electoral calendar is something that Cameroonians have to start pinpointing on. It's very primordial. Let me remind our viewers that Senegal used the question of electoral calendar to tell Macky Sall that you are not going to always use what they call presidential prerogative to overwrite the constitution and the electoral code written by the people. So this is a very key thing, and I want Cameroonians to look at the issue of electoral calendar, and then to also look at the issue of focusing on those who are already registered to have their cards, and when they have these cards, to form a very strong network of voters, vote protection, and the mechanism of protecting votes and surveillance, and also keeping close eyes on Elecam and Constitutional Council, making them to understand that rigging at the level of the council or rigging at the level of the constituency or at the level of presidential elections will cost us a lot as a country. Yep. These are just the basic things that if people know, we will have a long way to go.
I want us to stay with the preparedness of political parties and possible civil society actors that could make the difference. Almost everybody is still planning. It's like you want to write GCE in 2 months and you're still joking around.
I want to start reading on the
exactly
1 month to GCE. I said one thing on this platform some years ago. I said the preparation for the next presidential election should start the day the last elections were read. Every party that wants to actually really have a place in the future elections should start preparing immediately the result of the previous elections are read. And that is what all the political parties in this country were supposed to have been doing by then. Not actually doing public campaign, because there is a time they give them to start carrying out campaign. But I think underground work was supposed to have been done, sensitization, talking to the people, relocating to different environments in the country, bringing to the awareness of the masses that there's an existence of such a party like this. Because I can tell you, like what Fabrice said earlier, do you know Cameroonians don't even know how many political parties are in this country? And they don't even know which political party is eligible to go in for elections or which one is eligible to go for presidential elections. You may be surprised tomorrow to hear that we have 370 political parties in this country. Not up to 10 or 15 are eligible to go in for elections. What is the constitution saying for a party? Because some people are in a political party envisaging to vote a presidential candidate who does not have the eligibility to contest for presidential elections.
Exactly.
What does it take a party to start a presidential election?
Exactly.
What qualifies the party to start a municipal election?
Exactly.
What does it take a candidate to be qualified as a presidential or a municipal or a regional councillor or a municipal councillor or a mayor? These are some of the things that we are supposed to go about educating people, because many people just feel insufficient, unqualified. Some feel like they are not even among the class of people, and then some believe that some people have been called and selected as politicians, that those responsibilities are meant for them. And then somebody also believe that for you to vote it means you are a politician. No,
this is wrong.
You vote because you are a politician. You vote because you are a citizen of a country, and it is your responsibility to effect change.
Vote.
It is the masses that determine who is their next leader. And if at all you are a member of that nation, a citizen of that country, it is your civic right to rise up and take a voter's card and say, okay, I don't want this president anymore. Let my vote count. Let me change this president by casting my vote. Because that is the most legitimate way you can be able to change the government you do not like. Now, people are not aware. And then most of us are opposition leaders to the existing government, but not opposition leaders in political parties. You cannot change a government as an opposition leader. You can change as an opposition leader in a political party. Because only political parties are eligible to contest and remove the president out of power. But you see, most of Cameroonians are oppositions, including me sitting here, but we are not oppositions in a political party. So an empty opposition leader who speaks publicly can only contribute and speak truth to power, or an opinion leader, but he cannot affect the change until he's in a political party that can qualify him to occupy an office, to establish the rules of engagement that is needed. And I can tell you, most of the persons who are speaking against what is not right in the country are not into any political party to be voted into an office to effect the changes so much desire. And that's another aspect of the political education which we have to draw the attention of most Cameroonians. I think youths of 23, 24, 25 years, 30 years should be gone in for municipal councillor, regional councillors, mayors, parliamentarians, because they know that their active involvement into the political landscape of the country will help regulate the modus operandi of things in the country. So if you look at it critically, most of the people are saying that we don't like this government. Prices of goods have gone up. They just speak it from a point of no man.
Yeah.
But if they speak from a point of somebody who has the power to effect change, it's going to be very important. So this is the reason why we call on all the youth to engage actively into politics, because your power is in the political party that will stand in to contest for elections. For instance, tomorrow I'm not in any political party, and I point out all the wrong things of the government in question. What at the end of the day, it is the party that will be voted that will stay in power. It's not my grumbling, it's not my murmuring, it's not my complaint, it's not my nagging. That will not solve any problem. It is somebody who has decided to join either PAP, PCRN, MRC, SDF, or CPDM that will be able to go to the polling station and stand as a candidate to effect the change. So let us not just be opposition leaders, let us be opposition leaders in political parties so that we can actually effect the change with so much desire.
Okay. So, young persons who are watching us this night, you certainly would have a word for them. What will you tell them?
I will tell my fellow young people that to do politics, you have to be courageous.
Because many are afraid.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, you have to be courageous. That's the first honest thing, because courage is to politics like childbirth is to woman, you know, and courage is the foundation of becoming a limelight politician, especially in our context, because you are going to meet roadblocks, serious roadblocks. You are going to deal with people that they don't want to hear anything about a younger person coming to take positions that they have been holding for a very long time. You're going to have to deal with your own generation that are not even interested in the route and the career you have chosen. And you will be spending hours and days and months and years convincing them to join you. And sometimes it might get tough because they might not listen to you, and you might feel frustrated that your own generation is not supporting you. But you must keep on fighting. I will also encourage my fellow young people that politics is the universal umbrella of every society. There is no society where it is any other sector or discipline that is managing apart from politics. That's why politics is the only thing that defines the relationship between the state and the people, and the state is part of the people. So if you will part of your responsibility to a people, abandon it to them, they use it anyhow. You don't have the legal and the moral and the legitimate right to complain. But if you want to be part of that process of how to define, how to change, how to make it happen, then you yourself could become the hero that the people want. And at one point, who knows, you can become the president of the republic that will define the policies of the country. Politics of 21st century, of nowadays, is no more the old politics where people had to start thinking of mysticism, they mystify power and make it so beyond humanity, as if it was to be practiced by some extraordinary human being or gods. Politics is science, it's numbers, it's strategy, it's knowing what to do, knowing how to do it, knowing when to do what, and knowing how to talk, to communicate, to brand yourself, to sell yourself, but most importantly, do this under the umbrella of a political party. Do not be some of these young people who run left and right, just making a lot of analysis on TV stations and on social media, but do not have political parties. There you're confusing people. So people will want to follow you. People want you to lead them, but you can only lead them under the platform of a political organization. Yep. We are also calling on young people to join us on the field for voters registration. We have 4 months remaining. We want to use it effectively, and after that, join us on the trainings to follow up on how election take place.
Dr. Apostle,
Thank you.
We have 4 months. You say political parties themselves are not ready. There are some civil society guys who are also not being contacted. How do we make use of this 4 months so that energies are not wasted? Should we still be talking about we are doing backdoor negotiations, we are doing this, we are doing that?
When time is not there, energy should be concentrated.
Yeah.
Dispersing your energy on different flanks will make you achieve so little in your pursuit. I think now it's time for them to focus their energy on one particular direction. A lot is coming up. If at all the time is limited, why don't we build our strength on the municipalities and build our strength on the constituencies? Because you cannot be able to target all the respective elections at the same time.
Exactly.
We should build people on what we want to achieve. If at all our target is the councils, then let us channel all our energy in taking over the councils. Because by so doing, it will help us centralize our energy, centralize our resources, and also direct our people towards a particular vision. Because trying to catch all the elections now is like a hunter chasing a bird flying. You will definitely run for distance and never meet that bird. So I think political parties should target what they want now. For instance, if PAP wants the municipalities, they should build their energies around the municipalities right now. Because the time that, except they have been working like he said, that for those who are just waking up from sleep, you can't be struggling to chase regional council, constituencies, municipal councils. No, just say, okay, now we are focusing on municipal councils. We want to take the councils in the northwest and the southwest. We want to take the councils in Jailobo and Center. We want to take the councils in Diamare and Faro Edu. We want to take the councils in this place. Focus your energy and capture that particular area.
Yeah, but we have to also be strategic. There are persons who know very well that they cannot run going by the electoral code. They cannot run for presidential elections. But you are giving a wrong signal to people that you can.
That's where ignorance is. For the masses who do not know who is qualified to be electoral candidate, a presidential candidate, they are the ones following somebody who knows by the electoral code is not qualified. It's not qualified. There are persons who are saying that they will go for. You cannot be a presidential candidate if you don't have at least some municipality under your control. So there are some political parties that are still in the back. They don't have any municipality anywhere, and then they have candidates who think that they are forerunner or they are flag bearer will stand presidential elections.
I think they start telling me that this person for presidency. Yeah.
I think Mr. Liu, the issue here is that people are basing their argument on the electoral calendar, because normally if we were to follow Cameroon electoral calendar without bias, we will have parliamentary and municipal elections by February, and then we'll be having presidential elections by October, which means if PAP, for example, is able to grab some seats by February, then we are eligible to go in for presidential election by October. Yeah, but so this is the argument.
We don't see that information. We only see persons saying that this person for 2025 presidential elections. This
well, I think it's also the manner of communication that makes it ambiguous for people to analyze. Because at the level of political parties, a political party, we PAP, we know that 2018 and 2020 elections we didn't participate because of our regions that we gave, and then now we want to participate. Now, if we are talking about a presidential candidate, it's because electoral code provides that we will participate in municipal and legislative before the presidential, which is coming, because elections in 2025 have an order of frequency, an order of chronology that is supposed to appear, unless the calendar is inversed, where we have presidential before the local elections, that parties not have to sit and absolutely decide on the question of coalition.
Parties not already start anticipating and looking for a plan A and plan B, because sincerely we may leave the people and they lost.
Yes, of course.
Persons
Because
will mobilize all their energy, hoping that
people cannot be in a political party when they are not even sure their candidate is eligible for presidential elections.
Yeah.
By now, they should be aware that their party member or flag bearer is eligible for presidential elections.
So that we don't waste energies.
Yes.
Yeah. Why not start looking at, okay, if I am not running, who is the best person I can stand?
I can stand.
Yeah. Those formations are done already.
Because there are parties for now, they already know if they are going for presidential elections or not.
Yes, this
now,
is true.
If at all my party is not eligible for presidential election, am I going to remain indolent or reluctant in participating in the elections?
No.
I should look for somebody with, that's where the coalition comes in now.
I think what you're saying is very pertinent, and
Yes.
I think that political parties have been doing that. But like I said again, people are looking at, because political parties, you know, a political party, before they come together, there's the issue of agenda, and then there's the issue of ideology, and then the issue of leaders. So these are things that take time for people to fuse them together. So the terms of agreement for presidential election is not the same thing with the terms of local election. These are two different things.
Can we say today, Dr. Apostle Ambe, that if from 2018 that we had the presidential elections to 2024 where we are to 25 next, a political party cannot assess its strength to know that
They can be able to take a particular
a council.
No, I think the argument here is not ability to take council or parliamentary seat, because if we were to have the municipal and legislative election as stipulated by the electoral code in February, be rest assured that more than 10 new political parties will enter the parliament and grab some seats. We'll add to the 7 that are existing already, and then this party will be sure to participate in presidential election, given the fact that one of the rules is for the party to have either a council seat or a parliamentary seat,
And be able to pay more than 30 million.
and be able to pay 30 million also, you know. So all other factors are, the only factor which is an institutional factor is the factor of having parliamentary seat or having municipal councils. This factor is only determined by the confirmation of the 2020 February local elections or its postponement. So this is where it leaves political party in an unequal situation, because if in PAP we are doing an analysis of whether we should go on coalition on the basis of presidential election is in October, but we are first of all looking at a situation where municipal and legislative elections are in February. So we cannot be arguing about October when we have not yet defined about February. So that is the issue.
Is a February subject to change?
No, last
Yes,
year,
it's subject to change.
Last year, the president
It postponed. So this is our fear.
Held the presidential elections before
the local elections. So this is where the question mark is based.
The president could prolong the mandate of the guys
of parliamentarians or municipal councillors.
So that the presidential elections
take place before municipal. That is what happened in 2018.
Yeah.
And then we fear that this happens again, and this is why I reiterated that people need to put eye on this, because it's unacceptable for it to be because this gives advantage to the party in power. In essence.
Yeah, but we should know energies of time. Thank you very much, Fabrice.
Thank you very much, Leo. I think it was a very productive and educative program. We learned a lot, we exchanged a lot, and then we are appealing that don't take these messages for granted. We appeal on Cameroonians to really implement some of the things that we take time to say here, and also fact check them so that you can consume objective information. Thank you for having me as your guest, Leo. Looking forward to always being a panelist at your program.
Okay. So many persons are writing that we don't know where the LECAM office is in Boya. We don't know where it is in Limbe. We don't know. Just find out.
Let them contact Timpa Boya. Okay. We will give them all the details.
Just find out.
Timpa Boya is coordinated by Tamba Collins Equine. He's there in Boya. He's the one doing voter registration every week with LECAM officers.
Across the town, it's not just for Boya. The persons who say, I'm in Limbe, I don't know where LECAM office. Just find out. I'm sure if you want to know something in Limbe, you will know.
Exactly. Even LECAM page on Facebook, they have details of their antennas, because they call it antennas. antennas of Elecam. They have details for the 360 municipal councils. People are not seeking information. Type Elecam Cameroon on Facebook. Scroll down. You will see all their antennas in all 360 municipal councils in Cameroon.
Okay.
And then without that, PAP can help you, can assist you in the process, and you become our militant.
Okay, Dr. Apostle Ambe, thank you too for
It's
coming.
always an honor, Mr. Leo. Challenging you Cameroonians, get your voters' cards stronger than the bullet.
We thank you all who took time off to watch tonight's edition of Prime on My Media Prime TV. Thank you to Desmond and Eli. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.